One of the most common questions I get is, how do you mix? Where do you start? And while it might be tempting to think, well, you start with let's push up the drum faders, the bass, the guitar, the keys, the vocals, and we're mixing, that might be a tempting first step, but in fact, there are two important things you should do even before you touch the faders. The first step, I'm sorry to say, is practice. We need to practice the equipment of the recording studio the same way that we practice guitar, piano, and singing. We need to get so good at using this equipment, at reaching for the equipment comfortably without thinking technically about how it works, but thinking creatively about what we want to do with it. We need to be that comfortable with this equipment in order to make music with it. So the first step is practice. The second step, and this is also very important, the second step before you get to touch the faders, before you get to do what we might think of as mixing, is to lay out the console. You can anticipate, if you have good knowledge of the tune that you're working on, you can anticipate what effects you might need and have them handy. You might anticipate that you're going to want some compression on the snare drum. You might anticipate that you might need a long haul reverb for the background vocals. You might anticipate that you need a short plate-like reverb for the snare drum. So you could patch these things up ahead of time. Patching is a fairly tedious step. Patching is a completely technical step. It's not a very creative step. It's not a very satisfying step. And so if you patch these things up ahead of time, you can run signal through, make sure the patching is done correctly, make sure the routing within the digital audio workstation is done correctly, make sure you've bussed things so that they get to the outboard equipment, so they get to the plug-in, and then return them to whatever faders you're using. Make sure all that's happening. Then when you're mixing later, when you're actually finally mixing and you're getting your head into the musical arrangement and you're trying to figure out what the tune needs to help the equipment push the arrangement along, you can simply think to yourself, I need to add some vocal reverb, and you simply raise the level on the send to the reverb and you've got reverb on the vocal. You don't have to stop. You don't have to lose momentum. You don't have to think about patching it up first. You can try the reverb on the vocal, immediately hear it, decide if it's right or wrong. If it's right, you get to move on.